In this video, you will learn about the main parts of a sewing machine. If you have the optional downloadable curriculum for this series, you can print out the sewing machine study guide and fill in the names of the parts as you watch this video. The curriculum can be purchased and downloaded online. For a link to the Calico Jam shop, please see the video description. For learning purposes, I will be demonstrating some parts of the machine while running it without thread. Be sure not to try this with a threaded machine, as it will cause jamming, which is when the threads get tangled up and the machine stops sewing. One end of the power cord for the sewing machine plugs into the connection socket on the side or back of the sewing machine, and the other end plugs into a wall socket. This provides power to the sewing machine. Label the power cord on your study guide. The power switch is usually located near the connection socket on the sewing machine. My switch is on the side, and pushing it turns the machine on, along with a light. Pushing it again turns it back off. Label the power switch on your study guide. The foot pedal is attached to the power cord. Pressing down on the foot pedal when the machine is powered on causes the machine to begin sewing. The harder you press on the foot pedal, the faster the machine sews. Label the foot pedal on your study guide. As I press the foot pedal or turn the hand wheel, you can see the feed dogs moving, which pull or feed the fabric through the sewing machine. You can see them lower, move forward a little, then come back up to grab the fabric and move it backward. Each cycle moves the fabric enough for one stitch to be made, then the process repeats. Label the feed dogs on your study guide. The needle on the sewing machine, which pokes the thread through the fabric, goes down and up one time for each cycle of the feed dogs. Label the needle on your study guide. The presser foot is used to hold the fabric in place while sewing. It can be lowered and lifted by using the presser foot lever. The presser foot can be removed, and other types of feet are available. There are different feet for sewing buttonholes, zippers, and other special uses. A standard presser foot does look like a small foot that presses down on the fabric. Label the presser foot and the presser foot lever on your study guide. The throat plate, which is sometimes referred to as the needle plate, has lines marked on it that indicate the distance away from the needle. This is useful when you need to sew a certain distance from the edge of a piece of fabric. To sew a seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, the fabric is lined up with a 1/2 inch mark on the throat plate, and the needle will sew a stitching line a 1/2 inch from the edge of the fabric. Label the throat plate on your study guide. The hand wheel is a way of manually running the machine without using the foot pedal. This is useful for sewing very slowly, like at the beginning and end of seams, and in very tight curves and corners. It should only be turned so the top of the wheel is moving toward you. Turning it in the opposite direction can cause jamming of your machine. Label the hand wheel on your study guide. As I sew with the foot pedal or the hand wheel, the thread take-up lever is moving up and down. It pulls the thread back up after each stitch is formed. When the thread take-up lever is at its highest position at the top, a stitch is complete. If it is anywhere else, it is still working on a stitch. Turn the hand wheel toward you to put the thread take-up lever at the top before removing a sewing project from the machine. This allows the last stitch to be fully completed and helps prevent the machine from getting jammed. Label the thread take-up lever on your study guide. The tension dial determines how tightly the machine holds the needle thread. Your manual will specify a recommended setting, which is typically somewhere near the middle, but may require adjustment when sewing buttonholes, using different types of thread, and for other special situations. Label the tension dial on your study guide. The spool pin on top of your machine is used to hold a spool of thread, which is referred to as the top thread or needle thread. Label the spool pin on your study guide. Thread guides are located in various positions on your machine and are used to hold the thread in the proper position when the machine is threaded. Label the thread guide on your study guide. In addition to a spool of thread on the top of the machine, you need one on the bottom as well. This is called the bobbin. Your machine will be able to load thread from a purchased spool onto an empty bobbin, which will then be placed into a bobbin casing located underneath the presser foot area. Label the bobbin on your study guide. The reverse lever is used to sew backward. On many sewing machine models, the lever is located in front, and the machine will sew in reverse as long as you lift up and hold the lever. Mine is here. When I press down and hold to engage it, the feed dogs will run in the reverse direction until I release the lever. When beginning and ending a line of stitching, the reverse lever is used to sew backward a few stitches to secure the threads and prevent the seam from pulling apart. Label the reverse lever on your study guide. The stitch length dial is used to set how long each stitch should be. Changing this setting adjusts how much the feed dogs move the fabric through for each cycle of the sewing machine needle. As I change the setting on the dial, you can see the difference in how long the stitches are. Label the stitch length dial on your study guide. You can adjust how wide your stitching is with the stitch width dial. When it is set to 0, you get a straight stitch. As you increase the setting, the needle moves left and right to create what is called a zigzag stitch. The higher the stitch width setting, the wider your zigzag stitch is. Label the stitch width dial on your study guide. If you will be taking the sewing machine quiz, use the study guide you just filled out to prepare and re-watch this video as needed.